4 months into a marriage, I'm in rehab for 3 months with no idea what was going to happen to us. And if you want to see what love in action really looks like, give that a whirl.
For years, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman seemed to embody the dream, two icons united by love, fame, and shared resilience. Their marriage weathered storms and success alike, a partnership many thought would last forever. But recently, the facade cracked. After Nicole made a stunning public announcement about their divorce, Keith was seen visibly shaken, fighting tears during a live performance.
Take your space and your stupid reasons.
Insiders described the moment as a breaking point, the reality of loss finally hitting the man who once promised her forever. What did Nicole say that broke Keith Urban's composure so completely? Let's find out.
Every woman would ever see anything in a guy like me. And that's not me being humble, that's literally how I saw myself and her. I did, as you probably figured out, pluck up the courage to finally call her. We started talking, and we just talked and talked like we'd known each other.
The world first noticed something was wrong when Keith Urban took the stage at a charity concert in Nashville. His voice, usually smooth and controlled, faltered midway through a love ballad that he had written for Nicole years ago. Cameras caught him pausing, his eyes glistening under the lights. It wasn't part of the act. It was the sound of a man confronting the truth, that the woman he once called his anchor had finally walked away for good. Just hours earlier, Nicole Kidman had made a rare, emotional announcement confirming that their divorce was finalized. Her words, though measured and respectful, carried unmistakable finality. "There are moments when love must release what it can't repair," she said during a live interview. For Keith, it was a dagger wrapped in grace, a reminder of everything they once were and could never be again. Friends close to the musician reveal that he had been holding out hope for reconciliation, even after months of separation. He had written songs for her, reached out through mutual friends, and avoided public confrontation. But Nicole's announcement left no room for ambiguity. She was moving forward, alone. Their relationship, once celebrated for its devotion and strength, had quietly deteriorated under the weight of fame and distance. Keith's touring life had kept him away for long stretches, while Nicole's film commitments took her around the world. The love that had once bonded them became strained by absence and unspoken resentment. That night on stage, when Keith finally whispered, "Some things aren't meant to stay," it wasn't part of the lyrics. It was a confession.
That's simple.
I just often think that if you weren't at that event, maybe you don't have the same friendship group, it may never have happened.
Well,
Never know.
You never know.
It's fate, it's the universe.
Anyway, moving on.
When the announcement reached the headlines, Keith Urban's world seemed to tilt. Those who knew him said he hadn't been himself for weeks, clinging to fragments of hope that the marriage could still be saved. But Nicole Kidman's calm, public confirmation ended any lingering illusion. For the first time in years, Keith was forced to face the reality that the woman he once sang about with so much devotion was truly gone. Insiders described his breakdown as raw and unfiltered. During rehearsals for an upcoming tour, Keith reportedly stopped mid-song and walked off stage without explanation. His bandmates watched in silence, knowing that the performance wasn't just another show, it was a man struggling to sing through heartbreak. The same hands that once strummed with confidence now trembled, betraying the emotion he tried to conceal. Keith's friends urged him to rest, but music had always been his refuge. He poured himself into songwriting, penning lyrics that spoke of regret, longing, and unanswered questions. "If love was enough, we'd still be home," one of his new songs begins, a line that industry insiders believe is directly about Nicole. It's not anger that drives his music now, but loss. Meanwhile, Nicole's words continued to echo through the media. Her announcement wasn't cruel, it was closure. She spoke of healing, of lessons learned, and of letting go with grace. Yet for Keith, grace was the hardest part. He had built his life around their love story, and now all that remained were memories set to melodies. Those who have seen Keith recently say he's quieter, more introspective, and visibly carrying the weight of regret. The sound of his heartbreaking isn't loud. It's in every lyric, every chord, and every silence that follows.
Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own. And she chose love. And here we are tonight, 18.
To the outside world, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman were a masterpiece of balance, a Hollywood actress and a country star whose love transcended fame. Their chemistry on red carpets, their tender interviews, their mutual praise and acceptance speeches, it all seemed genuine, and it was, in its own way. But perfection, as those close to them now reveal, was a fragile performance. Behind the flashbulbs and tailored smiles, the cracks had long been forming. Their marriage began in a blaze of passion back in 2006. Nicole saw in Keith a man of warmth and humility, someone who grounded her after years of living under the harsh glare of the media. Keith adored her for her strength, her intellect, and her calm elegance. For years, they appeared inseparable, two souls who had found peace in each other. Yet beneath that bond lurked an invisible divide, the battle between love and lifestyle. Keith's music career thrived on the road. His tours stretched across continents, while Nicole's filming schedule carried her from one set to another. Their time together became fleeting, a few days here, a week there. Each reunion was emotional but strained, a reminder of how much life they lived apart. Friends noticed the subtle tension, Nicole's longing for stability clashing with Keith's restless energy. Behind closed doors, there were promises, endless vows to spend more time together, to slow down, to put family first. But fame never waits, and neither did their ambitions. The distance grew not just in miles, but in hearts. So when the world saw them smiling for cameras, they weren't seeing happiness. They were seeing survival. Love had become something they performed, not something they lived. And when the curtain finally fell, both knew it had been coming for years. It was a quiet Friday morning when Nicole Kidman's statement dropped. A single post that would send ripples through the entertainment world. No drama, no accusations, just a calm declaration that her marriage to Keith Urban had come to an end. The wording was graceful, even poetic, as if she'd spent weeks perfecting every syllable. But beneath that serenity lay the tremor of finality. Fans flooded social media, stunned that the couple who had weathered so much could finally crumble. Keith Urban reportedly found out only moments before the announcement went public. Sources close to him revealed he'd been aware that things were tense, but never expected Nicole to go public so soon. When he read her words, "After much reflection, Keith and I have chosen to walk separate paths with respect and love," he was speechless. That silence, friends said, spoke volumes. The media firestorm was immediate. News anchors replayed clips of the couple's most tender moments. Nicole's proud gaze during Keith's award wins, Keith's emotional speeches thanking his wife for saving him from self-destruction. Every headline twisted the knife. Love's end for Hollywood's golden couple. For fans, it felt personal. They had rooted for Keith and Nicole, believing in their fairy tale redemption story, a story of addiction overcome, of love that conquered fame's poison. Now, that belief was shattered. As the world dissected the split, Nicole retreated into quiet reflection while Keith's pain played out in real time. During a charity performance days later, his voice cracked mid-song, his eyes glistening under stage lights. No one needed confirmation. His heartbreak was written across every lyric. That single post had ended a marriage but opened a floodgate of truth. And for the first time, both had to face what came next: life apart. When the weight of Nicole Kidman's announcement finally hit him, Keith Urban couldn't hide behind the music anymore. The man who once sang about eternal love now stood before audiences trying to hold himself together. Every note he played seemed to tremble beneath the strain of emotion. It wasn't the sound of a superstar. It was the sound of a man unraveling. At his first concert after the news broke, fans expected him to address the separation. Instead, he began with silence, strumming absent-mindedly before whispering, "Some songs hurt more than others." The crowd cheered in sympathy, but Keith's eyes told another story. Witnesses say he looked lost, haunted even, as though he were trying to sing through tears he refused to shed. Backstage, his team worried. He barely spoke, spending hours alone, writing fragments of lyrics on crumpled sheets of paper. "He's in survival mode," one insider said. "The stage used to be his home, but now it's a battlefield." He wasn't angry at Nicole. If anything, he was angry at himself. for the long nights apart, for the moments he put his career before love, for thinking fame could fill the silence between them. Then came the interview. When a journalist gently asked how he was coping, Keith paused for a long moment before answering, "You don't move on from someone like Nicole. You just learn to live with the echo." It was a confession that stripped away the celebrity facade, revealing the raw human underneath. By the end of that week, the public's sympathy for Keith had deepened. Fans flooded his social media with messages of support, calling him brave for showing his pain. But what most didn't realize was that Keith's real battle wasn't with heartbreak. It was with the haunting realization that he might have lost the love of his life forever. Once the news of Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's divorce broke, the media storm was merciless. Within hours, tabloids twisted facts into sensational headlines. Rumors of betrayal, secret affairs, and hidden resentment flooded social platforms. For every ounce of truth, there were 10 of speculation, and the couple's silence only fueled the fire. Keith became the unwilling centerpiece of sympathy and scrutiny. Some outlets painted him as the heartbroken victim, others as the neglectful husband who drove Nicole away. Photographs of him looking weary outside his Nashville studio were splashed across covers with captions like, "Keith's lonely days begin." Every sigh, every downcast glance became evidence of a narrative he never wrote. Nicole, too, was not spared. The actress known for her grace was accused of orchestrating the timing to coincide with a new film promotion. Her representatives quickly denied the claims, insisting the separation was mutual and long considered. Still, the damage was done. The public, hungry for drama, devoured every unfounded story. Behind the scenes, both camps tried to contain the chaos. Legal teams issued statements asking for privacy, but reporters camped outside their homes and studios. Even close friends were misquoted, their words twisted into clickbait. "It's like living in a storm with no shelter," one confidant said. "No matter what they say, it gets spun." Yet amid the noise, a quieter truth began to surface. Those who truly knew Keith and Nicole insisted that the breakup wasn't about scandal. It was about distance, exhaustion, and the impossibility of two careers constantly pulling them apart. They had tried to stay together, but even love has limits when time keeps running out. And so, while the media hunted for villains, the real story was simply two people, famous, flawed, and finally human. Long before the headlines and heartbreak, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's marriage was a quiet symphony of devotion and struggle. They had shared moments that felt timeless. Handwritten notes tucked into suitcases, late-night calls across continents, and whispered promises to make the distance worth it. Their connection was deep, almost spiritual, the kind of love that seemed destined to last. But time, as it often does, began to erode what once felt unbreakable. In the early years, Nicole stood by Keith through his darkest battles. His struggle with addiction nearly cost him everything, but Nicole refused to walk away. She was his anchor, guiding him toward recovery, reminding him of who he could be without the chaos. When he finally emerged sober, Keith often credited her with saving his life. "She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself," he once said. Yet even love forged in crisis can fade under the weight of fame. As Nicole's career soared to new heights, Keith's tours grew longer and more demanding. Their reunions became more like pit stops than homecomings. The small cracks, missed calls, rescheduled plans, quiet misunderstandings slowly widened into chasms neither could bridge. Still, there were moments of tenderness that never left them. Friends recalled the way Keith looked at her during award shows, as though she were the only person in the room. Nicole often called him her safe place, even as they drifted apart. Their love didn't die in anger, it faded in silence. When they finally let go, there wasn't a dramatic fight or cruel betrayal, just two people realizing that love, no matter how strong, sometimes can't withstand the constant pull of different worlds. And even now, those echoes, the laughter, the vows, the music, still linger like a melody that refuses to end. In the days that followed the public revelation, both Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman faced a delicate balancing act, protecting their dignity while acknowledging the pain. Hollywood thrives on drama, but neither wanted their love story to become a spectacle. Still, Once the headlines caught fire, controlling the narrative became impossible. Keith was the first to break his silence. During an emotional interview with a Nashville radio station, his voice trembled as he said, "I take responsibility for the moments I wasn't there, physically and emotionally. Nicole gave her all, and I'll always be grateful." It wasn't rehearsed or strategic, it was raw, human. Fans praised him for his honesty, even as the confession reignited public sympathy. Nicole, on her part, responded with her signature composure. In a brief statement at a film premiere, she said, "Keith and I shared a beautiful chapter. We're both healing in our own ways, and I wish him nothing but peace." Her tone wasn't defensive, it was reflective. But those few words carried a quiet grace that reminded everyone why she had always been admired for her strength. Behind the scenes, their representatives worked tirelessly to quell speculation. Every false rumor required a denial, every emotional photograph an explanation. Yet amid the chaos, a subtle reconciliation of sorts was taking place. Not of romance, but of respect. Keith reportedly reached out privately, apologizing for the ways his absence had hurt her. Nicole accepted, expressing that forgiveness didn't mean rekindling, it meant release. Their final exchange, according to an insider, ended not with anger, but understanding. As one friend put it, they loved each other enough to let go kindly. In a world that feeds on bitterness, their quiet grace stood out. It wasn't just damage control, it was two souls finally finding peace in truth. Keith Urban stood at a crossroads. The world had watched him fall apart, and now everyone wondered if he would ever recover. For years, his music had been intertwined with Nicole Kidman, his muse, his anchor, his redemption. Without her, what was left? His reputation as one of country music's most genuine voices was on the line, and his next move would either rebuild his legacy or destroy it. After weeks of silence, Keith returned to the studio. The songs that emerged were stripped bare, no polished hooks or commercial gloss, just truth. One track, "The House We Built," reportedly written after the split, told of love lost not to betrayal, but to time. It was haunting, honest, and painfully real. Critics called it his most powerful work in years. "He's not hiding behind the melody anymore," one reviewer wrote. "He's letting the pain breathe." But while his art flourished, his public image faltered. Some fans accused him of exploiting heartbreak for fame, while others defended him, saying music was the only way he knew how to heal. Industry insiders feared his vulnerability might alienate mainstream audiences. Yet Keith seemed unconcerned. He wasn't chasing approval anymore. He was chasing truth. Meanwhile, Nicole continued to thrive professionally, accepting new roles that showcased her emotional depth. The contrast between her quiet composure and Keith's visible struggle painted two sides of the same story. One choosing silence, the other singing through the wreckage. For Keith, redemption wouldn't come from chart numbers or sold-out shows. It would come from facing himself, his flaws, his fears, his regrets, and still finding the strength to perform. And as his voice cracked during a live rendition of "Blue Ain't Your Color," the crowd didn't hear a broken man. They heard a survivor. The dust has settled, but the echoes of Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's love still linger across headlines and hearts. Both have stepped into new chapters, not as enemies, but as two souls forever marked by a shared history. The world watched their union rise from devotion and crash into heartbreak, yet what comes next for them seems less about pain and more about rediscovery. For Keith, healing is taking the shape of music and introspection. He's spending more time in Nashville, away from the cameras, focusing on creating an album that reflects not just loss, but growth. Friends say he's calmer now, quieter, determined to rebuild his life with meaning. He's spoken about wanting to reconnect with his daughters, to be the steady father figure he once feared fame might overshadow. "They're my compass," he recently said in a rare interview. "Everything else comes second." Nicole, meanwhile, has redirected her energy toward her craft and her family. Though she remains poised and private, she has allowed rare glimpses into her emotional world. On set, she's reportedly found catharsis through her roles, each performance echoing a woman's resilience after heartbreak. Yet, behind the scenes, those close to her insist she has no bitterness toward Keith. She's moved into a place of peace, one friend shared. The two are no longer a couple, but they share an unspoken understanding that only deep love can create. They've chosen mutual respect over resentment, privacy over performance. Their story may have ended, but its legacy endures, in Keith's songs, in Nicole's quiet strength, and in the lesson they leave behind. Even the most beautiful love stories can end, but that doesn't make them failures. It makes them human. Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's journey reminds us that love's ending isn't always tragedy, it's transformation. Their grace amid heartbreak has redefined what it means to part with dignity. What do you think? Can love truly survive after goodbye, even in memory? Share your thoughts below and keep the conversation alive.